Well, hello. Um, Took a little shot at the Transamerican Trail last weekend, and I got what I wanted to get done, which was work out the navigation system and all of that. And we'll do a lot more talking about the trail when I get back onto it. But I rode the Himalayan up to Virginia and did a couple 100 miles on it. But we had some events and we had some damage, so we're gonna get into this motor and learn a few things. Trail cannot be described, and I know the eastern half isn't even considered trail yet, but it's hard to consider some of it roads in that we're talking about loose shale over bedrock, slippery and inclines and declines that were just absolutely phenomenal. Beautiful scenery. It was cold as heck, and I was going to take my 360 cameras, but my gloves were too thick to operate them. So we'll see what I've got. I'll put up a little bit, but this was kind of the shakedown cruise, and things went well and didn't go well. And overall, I would not change it for the world, but it was a little rough. Some miles into it, I was just riding along, and all of a sudden, boom! The motorcycle jerked nearly to a stop, and it was a little concerning. I thought something froze up or something. Engine kept running when I pulled the clutch in. And we coasted over to the side, and what I found was a bunch of orange nylon webbing was wrapped around the front sprocket. Now I've searched and searched and searched. I had some, but I'd taken two straps with me, and I had two straps uh, still with me, so I'm not sure where it got picked up. But the cover over the front sprocket had one bolt that was, practically finger tight, and the other one was going to need an impact wrench when I got back. So I couldn't really get into it that well, except to turn the wheel around and keep pulling little bits of orange nylon webbing out. I didn't think too much of it at the time because, I was just glad that's what it was. The shaft didn't seem to be bent because the chain maintained constant tension as we rotated around, and I thought we were in pretty good shape. So I took off riding again. Uh, it's very desolate. It's very unpopulated. I saw one motorcycle going the other direction. And then, very fortunately, not too much later, I passed a couple loggers. And then the GPS did one of those things that makes drones get lost, where it jumps one place and jumps another. And I took a wrong turn, went down this muddy road, and I'll put the comical video of that up. But went down this little muddy road and took the first spill on it, which when I look at the muddy road, I'm surprised I made it that far. But the bottom line was, I walked back. It was tank down low, wheels up high. If I had to pick it up, I would have picked it up one way or another somehow. But I wandered on back a quarter mile and grabbed these two loggers, and they were very helpful, and we uprighted it. But as we did, we noticed there was a lot of oil on the bottom of it. I mean, like a lot. But it wasn't dripping there, and it had spread all over, so it had obviously leaked for a while. And as I stood it up, it seemed to be coming from that shaft area. So I assume at this point, anyway, that it's torn the seal up. The bad news was there was no oil in it, and these loggers were not intending to go back anytime soon. They had no oil, and it was 30 some miles to civilization. Now I have a GPS pager with me. I had camping gear, food, water, and I was, somewhat fully prepared to walk out if necessary. But I just didn't know what was going on with the bike and how we're going to get it back and all this. So, I made the tough decision to see if we could ride it out and go as far as we could. Coasted down every hill I could, let it cool off, run it as gently as I could uphill. And I rode it some 30 miles and pulled into a gas station and turned it off, and it will not start again. Turns over well, so it didn't freeze up, and that's good. I believe that below the level of the shaft seal, there's still some oil because it wasn't like a constant on engine light. It did flicker a time or two, but not enough to really properly lubricate the engine. So what we're going to do over the next few videos, because there's going to be more than one, is take a look at taking this thing apart and seeing what kind of damage we got, and everybody will get a look at the internals on the Royal Enfield Himalayan. So, just before this had happened, I said to myself, if I could never ride again, this would have all been worth it. This ride was priceless. The beauty, everything else. I can't wait to ride the rest of the Transamerica Trail. So no cost was, quote, too much. The other thing I've got to count myself extremely lucky was I didn't crash when the sprocket locked up. The loggers were there when I needed them, and the bike literally took me exactly all the way out and then rolled over and said, I'm done. So I've got to be grateful for all of that. I had to call a tow truck, had to call a U-Haul, take a U-Haul, and all I could get was a 20-foot truck with a little tiny motorcycle all the way back from North Carolina to Daytona Beach. But anyway, we're going to continue with this little series of taking it apart, determining what's wrong, and hopefully putting it back together. And if you'll follow me along, we're going to get back on the Transamerica Trail in a month or so. Please subscribe so that you can follow all these updates and that I can be, rich and famous and all that crap. I'll settle for surviving or paying my bills. But anyway, let's take a look at what needs to be done. All right, there's our first one. Ah, shit. So this is where we're going to start. This is the seal area, so we're going to go ahead and remove this sprocket and take a look at the seal behind it, see where we are with that. But before we do that, let's take a look at the compression on this thing. Compression gauge in here now, so let's take a look and see what we're getting. We should see, well, any crappy running engine isn't going to run below 100 psi, so let's see what we're getting here. Yeah, the rings are shot. So we can start there anyway. We're gonna have to just take off the tank, take out the engine, and start tearing into this thing. See what we got. I've already ordered the new seal because that's a done deal, and we will get into it. And it'll take what it's gonna take. Fuel tank off in this mess of a carport here. I have to clean that up. But I think soon, and I had dumped a bunch of oil in there to see if I could bring the compression up, but it's really, the rings are going. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drain the oil out so I can take a look at the oil screen, what little oil there's in there, make sure we're not making any metal. Not that it'll make any difference. We're going to find out what's in here when we open it up. So continuing on. Okay, from this right side of the engine we pulled the oil filter out, and I am not seeing any metal at all. We're looking good. We're going to go out and pull out the fine screen on the other side in just a moment. But that is a good sign so far. Alright, now we've pulled out the screen. I don't know if you're going to see this or not. Now we're getting to some, it looks like about 24 tiny little particles. I'm going to get my little magnifier camera, see if I can't get a better still picture of this. But as expected, it's got to be making some kind of metal. There's no doubt about it. Well, I'm just going to find out how much is worn out. We're going to take off that nut on the other side, but what you want to do is not put a load on the transmission. What you want to do is let the chain stabilize the nut. So we're going to get a friend, and they're going to press down on this rear brake. But seeing that I have no friends, I have jammed this piece of wood in here, and hopefully that's going to hold the rear wheel. It is in neutral because I don't want to be prying on those gears, and this is the best time to take this off rather than take the engine out, and then you don't have anything to stabilize the sprocket. So let's go around and get it loose. I got a 30mm 6-point socket, and we'll see what we can do. All right, I flattened the little tabs back behind, and this actually popped loose. Not too bad. It was tight. I guess I should have shown that, but oh well. I didn't want to show myself struggling. I didn't end up struggling that much. So we'll go ahead and take this nut off, and then we'll take a look at that seal. Okay, I loosened up the rear axle nut and the adjusters and scooted the tire forward so the chain's nice and loose. And I've actually already done this, but I wanted to recreate for Hollywood drama. We're going to go ahead and take this nut off, take this washer off, and we're going to slide this sprocket off. And we're going to see if there's damage to the seal. And look, the notorious orange webbing is jammed all in here. And this is probably what has torn up this whole seal area and why it's leaking. So we will take it from there. I actually don't know why it would tear up that seal. It must have got in there, but we will continue from here. Yahoo. And actually, now that I've torn this apart, I'm a little confused because I didn't really see how anything could have got back to that seal. And I'm beginning to wonder if something didn't go out in the rings. The engine was being run pretty hard in some pretty rough country. And if the crankcase ventilation, we're going to take a look at a few things. There's a wire. If it pressurized and pumped it out, I don't quite know what chicken and egg came first. But anyway, I can bet the rings are going. That would actually be preferable because that's just rings in a cylinder. So we're going to take a look at things. We're going to take the engine out, but I think I'm about shot for the day. We'll pull that out tomorrow and take it apart and take a look at what's in there and get some parts ordered.